I'm afraid of everything. Clowns, being alone, Ted Cruz, being alone with Ted Cruz. The last time I rode a roller coaster was when I was 10 and I blacked out. I'm afraid of everything and I worry about everything. And this is a common medical condition called Judaism. It was easy to spot early on because everyone in my family's a doctor, except for the lawyers. It was also clear to everyone when I wanted my bar mitzvah theme to be emergency preparedness. So when my friend Jeremy asked me to go on a post-college backpacking trip to Southeast Asia, you would think I would have said no. And I did, at first. But my 3 older sisters really encouraged me to go. They said, Muffin. They call me Muffin. They said, Muffin, you can't be afraid of living. You've got to be more adventurous. I mean, this could be your last chance to travel before you're sitting behind a desk for the rest of your life. Plus, Jeremy told me he would plan the whole thing, set the agenda. I would just follow his lead. So I decided to throw caution to the wind and go. But I needed to check with my mom first. And my mom also worries about everything killing me. And the only reason she was comfortable with me going on this trip was because I told her that Jeremy was also Jewish. Now, she thought this meant that Jeremy was like me. She was wrong. Because Jeremy is actually a 6'4", thrill-seeking daredevil with a 6-pack. Jeremy's the rarest of Jews, a Junicorn. In fact, he was actually featured in our college tabloid's 50 Most Beautiful Students on Campus edition, on the cover, shirtless. When I stood next to Jeremy, it looked like a before and after photo of puberty. Like I bought this shirt in 5th grade, and it still fits. But Jeremy also knew that I was afraid of everything, and he just said, trust me, I'll take care of you, we're gonna have a blast, we're gonna test the limits of our comfort zone. Which is a little unfair, since our comfort zones are very different sizes. But I said, what the hell, and with a backpack full of Tums and EpiPen, anxiety medication, and 3 first aid kits, I flew to Vietnam. And as soon as I get there, Jeremy says, first thing on the agenda, you, me, AK-47s. Now, I had never even touched a gun before, and a therapist once told me that the best way to conquer your fears is to take baby steps. And an AK-47 is not a baby step. So I was like, Jeremy, actually it was more, I was like, Jeremy, absolutely not. So we're at the firing range, and I'm holding an AK-47, and the guy running the range is yelling at me that my grip isn't firm enough, and he's going, squeeze, squeeze, and finally he says, hold it like you're horny. And I was like, this is a little bigger than I'm used to. I'm more of a respectable pistol with a safety on. Of course, I look over at Jeremy and he's handling it just fine because he has a bigger comfort zone, okay? He has big comfort zone energy. Also, I don't mean to kink shame anyone in the audience, but AK-47s do not make me horny. You wanna know what turns me on? Natalie Portman speaking Hebrew. Natalie Portman speaking English. And Ken Burns documentaries. They're very sensual. Yeah, you too? They're very sensual. But I fired the gun and Jeremy seemed proud of me, and as we left the range, and I said to him, "What's next?" And he said, "Oh, I rented bikes for us to ride to the next town." When I woke up the next morning, I walked outside of our hostel to find Jeremy standing next to 2 Yamaha motorcycles. I think he could see the betrayal on my face because the first thing he said was, "I didn't lie to you. Here in Vietnam, they just call these bikes." Now that's disingenuous because bikes and motorbikes are not the same thing. That's like if your friend said, "Let's play roulette," and then pulled out a gun and was like, "I didn't lie to you. Here in Russia, So I went over to the guy that Jeremy had rented the bikes from, and I was like, "Do you know how long it's gonna take us to get to the next town on these?" And he said, "Oh, well, it's a day trip through the mountains, so it's about 12 hours. That was my reaction too. And Jeremy walks over and he puts his arm around my shoulder and he goes, "So, how are we feeling?" I said, "Jeremy, I am an angry muffin." Because I was convinced I was gonna die, and I started to have all the thoughts you have when you think you're gonna die, like I haven't written a will, and I haven't specified my burial arrangements. I haven't deleted my browser history in a very long time. There's a lot of WebMD on there. But we got on the motorcycles, and at the first big intersection we get to, I hear someone yelling behind me, and I turn around to see a 70-year-old Vietnamese woman holding a baby and a bag of groceries on a motorcycle. And she's yelling at me and pointing at Jeremy, and yelling at me and pointing at Jeremy. I'm looking around for someone to translate. Finally, this good Samaritan rides up alongside us and goes, "She says you're going too slow, and that you should share a bike with your father." And I wanted to correct her. I wanted to be like, "Actually, ma'am, these are called motorcycles." Right, Dad? But we got into the mountains, and as soon as we came across this free stretch of road, Jeremy started speeding up. We were going faster and faster, and I felt the wind in my face, and I started to feel this rush of adrenaline that I wasn't used to. And I remember thinking, like, maybe I can be a unicorn too. Because to that point, the biggest adrenaline rush I'd ever had was when I met Ken Burns. And this was a whole new level. When we got to the next town, Jeremy asked me again how I was feeling, and I said, "Amazing. I've never felt this way before." He said, "That's what I like to hear. There's one more thing you gotta do on this trip before you can conquer your fears." I said, "Whatever it is, I'll do it." He said, "When you go to Thailand, you have to get in a cage with a tiger." I said, I'm not doing it." Apparently, Jeremy had already gone to this so-called tiger sanctuary, and he was trying to convince me how awesome it was. He was like, "There's nothing like it." And I was like, "Jeremy, I'm not doing it." He said, "You'll never have this chance again." I said, "Jeremy, I'm not doing it." And he goes, "Natalie Portman would do it." So I'm at the tiger sanctuary. And I'm from Cincinnati, and our football team, Cincinnati Bengals, our mascot is a tiger, and I'm a huge fan. So I had already brought my Bengals orange and black tiger stripe t-shirt with me on the trip. So I wore it to the sanctuary because I thought maybe it could be a peace offering for the tiger. The tiger guy leads me into the cage, is surrounded by tourists. I'm standing 5 feet away from a sleeping adult tiger. And that's when a 12-year-old kid outside of the cage goes, "Eat him!" don't know why you guys think that's funny. Seemed like a very real possibility to me at the time. But it was too late to back out because the tiger guy starts nudging me towards the tiger and he goes, "Put your head on its butt and I'll take a photo." I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "Lie down next to the tiger, put your head on its butt, and I'll take a photo." And I was like, okay. So I got down next to the tiger and I looked at him this way and the tiger was behind me, and as soon as my head hit the tiger's butt, I felt it wrap its tail around my neck. That was my reaction too. I turned around to see it lift its head, open its eyes, and come towards me with its mouth open. I look back at the guy with my phone and he's going, get up now, get up now. And I take the tail off and I scramble up and the tiger gets up and starts pacing back and forth. I'm looking at the tiger and I'm looking at the guy and I'm looking at the tiger and I'm looking at the guy, and finally the guy goes, "The tiger doesn't like your shirt." So essentially what he was saying is that the tiger accused me of cultural appropriation. Now what I later found out is that these sanctuaries were secretly drugging the tigers to make them less anxious around people. And my first thought when I read that was, tigers are Jewish? But in all seriousness, if there's anyone from PETA in the audience, I just want to say that I'm sorry. If I had known they were sedating the tigers, I would have asked them to sedate me instead. When Jeremy and I got to the airport at the end of our trip, I asked him what he was going to do when he got home, and he said he was going skydiving. He asked me what I was going to do, and I said, after all this, I'm probably just going to take it easy, maybe watch a few Ken Burns documentaries. But I really do cherish that trip, and I thanked him for, pushing me to experience new things and showing me what it was like to have a big comfort zone. While I don't think I would go skydiving or get in a cage with a tiger again, I have loosened up a little bit. Just last month, for example, I took my 2-year-old niece on a roller coaster for toddlers. Baby steps. Thank you.